Hey guys, I want to touch on kind of a topic that's really been heavy on me lately, especially tonight. And I don't normally do trigger warnings, but just so you know, there's going to be some discussions on death and dying, and some things that might bruise your ego. So consider yourself warned. So I touched on this briefly in another video about what I feel the role of a priestess is, or rather what it isn't. But I want to get back into this again in, I think, a little bit more of a deeper or maybe a little more of a profound way. I don't care what your training is. I don't care what you have done or what you haven't done. I don't care whether you're qualified or not. If you call yourself a priest or a priestess, or specifically a high priest or priestess, or a leader of a group, or you're claiming clergy, I don't care if you actually are ordained through an actual church, or if you have your 32nd ordination from the UU online. A true leader is the last among equals. And what I mean by that is leading specifically in a religious context or a spiritual context. You should be putting everybody else before yourself. The reality of being actual, real, legitimate practicing clergy is that a lot of times it's not fun. A lot of times you're called on to do things for others that, personally, I would say it's rewarding, but it's not pleasant. For those of you that may or may not know, I did a stint with a funeral home. I was working in the funeral industry. I was actually picking up the deceased. I was the person that they called, and I would come to the home and remove your loved one. So I have actually physically handled the deceased. In my personal life, I've been present for that moment where someone passed away multiple times, and I have done funerals. A lot of people who are clergy are all excited to do, belly blessings or, fertility, celebrations, baby showers, whatever you call them, and marriages and things of that nature, celebrations of life, comings of age, that kind of thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those are wonderful things that I think it's great to be part of. But I'm finding that I am somebody in my area that is frequently called for funerary situations. Partially because I don't think anybody else does them. I've heard, I don't want to do those. I don't do those. That's too sad. That's too hard on me. And, I'm not going to rant because I'm not mad. I get it. But I think I'm really disappointed. And I think that I see a lot of people out there that, like I said, for me it's not about training or titles. I could really give a rat's ass. But they want to call themselves, for whatever reason, good, bad, or otherwise, a high priestess or a high priest or a minister or actual, real, quote-unquote, bona fide clergy. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not willing to do the hard stuff, if you're not willing to hold someone's hand who is actively dying, if you're not willing to serve your community when they need you most, you ain't shit. And I'm not even saying that to be angry or to be attacking people, but I just think that is what it is. If you are clergy or you're aspiring to be clergy, you need to be willing to put yourself last. Doing meetups, doing classes, doing service for others is really what it's all about. And it sucks, frankly, a lot of the time. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining and I'm not saying I'm quitting, because I'm not. But the reality is that to be people think that high priestess, for example, I'll use that term because that's what I am, is the top of the pyramid. that I'm up here and I get to order people around and tell them all what to do. The reality is that it is more of a totem pole, and for those of you that don't know, the most important person on a totem pole is on the bottom. You're the pillar, you're the base. You are the one upon which everyone else stands. And you're the one that gets called at 2 a.m. You're the one that gets called when people are having the worst day of their lives. You should be able to do pastoral counseling. And to clarify, pastoral counseling does not mean you are a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist. The first part of pastoral counseling is knowing when they need actual real help that you can't give them. But pastoral counseling would be the you're having a bad day versus a bad life. So my dog got run over, I had a miscarriage, whatever. I'm struggling with my relationships, I'm struggling with a personal thing, on a basic level, just to be able to talk to them so they have someone to talk to. And sometimes it's a fine line because, there comes a point where, depending on how well they're coping or how well they're not coping, you really might not be the person they need in that moment, but sometimes you're all they have. So, to clarify, I don't diagnose mental illnesses. I am familiar enough to know generally what they look like. So I have a vague idea of what things like borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar, that kind of thing, just enough to know, hey, this is outside my realm. Here's some resources for you. I have suicide hotline resources that I've had to give people. I've had, situations where I've almost Baker acted people. I don't think I've actually, no, you know what? I have called to Baker Act somebody at least once. When you're clergy and when you're leadership and you're actually doing your job, sometimes you're there on the worst day of somebody's life. And a lot of people, I find, don't want to do that. They see it as this, oh, look at me, I get to run a group, I get to have this title, I get to have this thing, I get to have this, YouTube channel, I get to have this show, I get to, la la la, look at me, and that's really not it. And if you're somebody who uses that title, and this video is upsetting you, I think you really need to consider whether you should be doing what you're doing. Because this is not always a fun job, but it is an important one. The first funeral I ever officiated was hard. It wasn't even somebody that I knew, but it was somebody that I found out I knew by reputation. She knew a lot of people that I knew. I never met her specifically, but they say that funerals aren't for the person that's passed, it's for the people that are left behind. And I think I spent way more time providing service after the service than anything else. And I think that I wish more people understood when it comes to my job, my position as an almighty high priestess. Really the job is putting myself aside. The job is swallowing any animosity or any opinions really that I have, because in certain moments your opinion doesn't matter. That's not why they're there. You hold people's hands through some pretty tough stuff. You are present when people, even as a teacher, for example, doing traditional Wicca. Okay, for those of you that are familiar, shadow work is not what most people think it is. Basically, it's dealing with your shit psychologically more than anything. It does affect you spiritually, and there's reasons why it's very important, but at the end of the day, it's facing yourself. If any of you have seen the Neverending Story, at the end of the day, his greatest enemy, he met a mirror, and he saw himself. And that's really what shadow work comes down to. And when you work with people on any kind of legitimate spiritual journey, and I'm not saying specifically what I do is legitimate, there's many different things. And a true spiritual journey, no matter where you find it, no matter how you get there, whether it's a sanctioned class or not, you're going to face your shit, or your people are going to face their shit. And you need to know how to really backseat yourself and how to basically cease to exist in the moment, because this is their time and you're there to facilitate them. And I think it's one thing I get really frustrated with. Again, I don't really care how people do what they do. I know eclectics. There's one in particular. I had a conversation with her about the fact that, she said to me, don't take it personally. I'll never have any interest in joining your coven. And I said, baby, I don't think there's much I can teach you. And she says, well, what's that supposed to mean? I said, well, honestly, you're more accomplished than most trained people I know in a, quote, legitimate system. It's not impossible to truly learn and truly be on your own. It's harder, and frankly, most people don't get that far on their own, and that's true of anything. It's not specifically spiritual. I think a lot of people just do better in a group environment or with someone to direct them, whether it's yoga or freaking crocheting, or, a lot of people join, or even a book club. Oh, I'll never read this if I'm not held accountable, just whatever. But it really irks me how many people wake up one day, go online, and I don't even think you can still do it, but there's enough people that have done it, that they'll just wake up one day and go, oh, I want to be clergy. Let me just get on the internet, 30 seconds, okay, you have my name and address, yay, I'm a minister, or I'm a priestess, or a priest, or whatever, And, I think it really diminishes what we do. Those of us that actually put in the time and the effort, and in my opinion, that's what makes a true teacher or a true clergy member. It's the time and effort you're willing to put in for others. I think there's a certain amount of teaching or learning that you should have, and basically have your own shit under control before you should even think about helping other people. But I just really want people to think about when people are just waking up and deciding they have these titles, or that they can just use these titles. I don't even care. Like, traditional, not traditional, eclectic, I don't care. But if you're going to say that you are something, or that you're willing to do something, oh, I'm an officiant, okay, cool, will you do this funeral for me? No, that's sad. I don't do those. I've heard that way more than I care to talk about. Or, like, it'll come up, I don't go out in public and announce my titles. I'm just me. I'm just Runa. If you're lucky enough to know my legal name, I'm just insert name here. I'm just some guy. Obviously I'm a chick. It's a quote from something, but I'm just a person. A ghost in a meat suit wandering around. I've been told I give good advice, and I've been told that I've provided resources or shown people where they can find ways to help themselves that they found pretty inspiring. And I've been told some stories that if you're not humbled by those kind of stories, you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be going, oh, la la la, I saved somebody's life today. No, it should really hit home to you if you find yourself in a position to have that kind of effect on people. It should really hit home to you that you've been given a chance to serve, and that you've been given this opportunity, small that it may be, in your 30 seconds on this spinning rock in the sky, that you have this ability to maybe make somebody's day a little bit easier. I am so tired of people finding out I'm clergy and going, oh, me too. I printed out the certificate online. No, darling. I don't put on airs. I certainly try not to anyway. I have now been doing what I do 14 years officially. I was initiated as a priestess 14 years ago. And I was practicing long before that. I was actually raised by an eclectic witch. I've been told that to be a high priestess means you're the first among equals. And the way that was explained to me was that basically yes, you're equal with everybody, but you're the person that has to herd the sacred cats, as it were. You're the one running the event, you're the hostess, so you have to say, please sit here, please move there, please stand, please sit, please, sing this song. But realistically, the more I've been running my own coven, the more I've been, quote, out on my own, so to speak, with my priest and husband, Anwire, the more I'm finding that the reality is that you're the last among equals. You're the first to get up in the morning to get ready for everything. You're the first to put in the effort to make the food, to order the food, to buy the food, to go to the store. You're the first to open your pocketbook, to support whatever's going on. You're the first to, begin, and you're the last to go home. You're the last to go home, you're the last to go to bed, you're the last to eat, you're the last to shower, you're the last to have a moment to yourself. And it really disappoints me universally, whether you're eclectic, whether you're traditionalist. I've seen it in all walks. It really disappoints me how many people I think don't see that. The 10 years of training that I had were 10 years in service. And we can get spiritual and religious. I serve my gods, I serve my religion, I serve, these nameless beings that I think exist that a lot of people don't believe in. But at the end of the day, you're serving the people. In my training, the beginning of the training is learning how to serve your priestess, which can be really humbling, and a lot of people can't make it. But it's learning, in small ways. Hey, I'm busy writing up the event for tonight. Can you wash the dishes I didn't get to? Hey, I'm over here trying to prep to do, this big public thing, and I'm putting the materials together and getting the baskets ready. Do you think maybe you could sweep the floor for me? And, in the beginning, I think a lot of times it feels really menial, and it almost feels like you're being punked. But the reality is that washing a dish is nothing. Sweeping the floor is nothing. Holding the hand of a friend and student when they've gone through the biggest loss of their life, whether it's a divorce or a death of an animal or a child, or finding out that they'll never have children, or sitting with someone when they're dying, which I've now done multiple times. I'm currently on call for, I want to say it's 3 people, but I can't remember who the third one is, and that actually bothers me because that probably means it's someone I don't know is dying yet. But I'm on call for multiple people in this moment, that when they die, I need to be there. Whether I make it in the moment when their last breath is taken, or whether I make it after. My father-in-law passed away in December, and it was unexpected, and it was very emotional, and I was the only one in that moment who had the ability to do a lot of the paperwork. I met my father-in-law, and I liked him, but I wasn't as close to him, for example, as his son was, or as his wife was. And so while I was grieving and struggling to take care of them, because believe me, they were a mess, I had to be the one to walk in and take my coworkers. When I used to pick up bodies, they came, and I had to be the one to show them in to where he was. And I'm told I fainted. I thought I was going to be fine. I was already doing the job at that point. I knew what happened. I knew it wouldn't make me happy, but I'm told I actually fainted. I woke up on the couch. If you can't do these things for the people that you think you're teaching, if you can't do these things for the community that you're so eager to have call you high priestess or high priest, you don't deserve the title. But I will say, for those of you that want to but don't know if you can, you can. It's not easy, and it's not supposed to be. You know, all this love and light crap about, you know, all love, all light, all the time. No, anger and sadness have their place. In feeling grief, you can try to understand what they're going through, and sometimes it can help you know what to say. The responsibility is being able to put your feelings aside enough and waiting until after everyone's gone home so you can have your breakdown so that you can be upset. Because they need you now. And the thing is we're at a beautiful place in the pagan, spiritual, what have you, metaphysical community where there are so many of us. But I'm finding that there aren't that many of us that serve. And I think that if you think you can, or if you're called to it, I think you should. And maybe this is your sign. You know, maybe you already call yourself a high priestess or a priest or what have you. If you feel like I'm targeting you or I'm talking to you, or that maybe you're one of those people, don't quit. I'm not asking you to quit. I'm not asking you to give up. But search inside yourself and do more. The community worldwide has grown so much, and there's a lot of joy and there's a lot of happiness. I was recently part of a study involving people raised by pagans. There's more of us than I think they thought they'd find. But with the sweet comes the sorrow. And I challenge you, or I invite you, I should say invite. Challenge sounds aggressive, but if you're one of these people that thinks you're leading from the front, take a step back and learn to lead from behind. Learn to serve from the bottom. Learn to be the last among equals, because we need the help. You know, I don't claim to be perfect. I don't claim to be a model priestess by any means. I'm just some human trying to get by like the rest of us. But if you're somebody who finds yourself in a position where people are looking to you, realize what you've been given. Realize the trust that people are placing in you. Realize that if they're having the worst day of their life and they're calling you, that's something. And try the best you can to put your ego aside for a moment and help shoulder some of that burden and some of that responsibility. Anthropologically speaking, that is social science, if you will, new communities, new civilizations thrive or fail between the third and fourth generation. And that's where we are now. Our community has grown, the revival, the pagan revival as it's been called, has grown and has spread, and that's a beautiful thing. But realize that the more of us there are, the more funerals we're going to have, the more bad days that people are going to have. And, you know, before, people were trying to find people to teach them. You know, where's that coven? I need to find someone to teach me. I need to find someone to get me started on my path. I need to find someone who give me a real, genuine hand fasting. I can't tell you how many times I have to tell people, no, I will not do your hand fasting on Samhain because I'm busy. And no, I'm not doing a hand fasting with a 12-hour notice on Samhain or really any other time. But these things are beautiful. And they're amazing, and frankly, we have more teachers than I think anybody knows what to do with, and that's both good and bad. But if you're someone who feels that you want to serve the community, be aware that there are other needs now. We are a people, again, for the first time in 2,000 years or more. There are a lot of us here, and that is a wonderful thing. But we need leaders willing to serve from the back. We need leaders who are willing to genuflect themselves. You should be on your knees before those you serve, not the other way around. Metaphorically or literally, or however you want to take that. But we need more of us. And I think that if we could find more of us to shoulder that burden, it would be easier on those of us that are actually doing it. And again, if you feel attacked by this dialogue, I think you need to ask yourself why. And instead of beating yourself up or getting mad at me, I think that you need to meditate on what you're giving your community and what you could give your community. And if you need help or assistance, or you want to know what that looks like, or you want to know how that works, I'm happy to share what I have. I have a book or two of, I've got a great big book of wedding ceremonies, because, oh my god. But I've started piecing together funerary rites. I have a couple that are semi-generic. I have ideas or recommendations for how to adjust them for certain paths, for what that person would have wanted, because I try as best I can to give them what they would have wanted, not what I do. But I'd really like to see more of us actually doing this, because I have to be honest, if I had to refer somebody to someone else for a funeral, say I'm not able to do it, besides me and my husband, I don't know of anybody doing generalized pagan funerals right now. I know people I could ask that would possibly step up to do it, but I don't know anybody that balls to bones would be like, yeah, absolutely, I'm there. So I just, once again, just wanted to point out that Priestess isn't about power.